Alright, so this is the grading video for assignment 18. What I'm looking for in this assignment is that you created an underlay of the hand tool that you've been modeling for SolidWorks class. That is a basic rendering of that object, and that you are doing 3 different design iterations by sketching in Sketchbook Pro on top of that underlay. You've had a couple really nice demos in the past week from other professionals in the field that have kind of touched on this stuff, so let's see how you guys did. Alright, so we'll go to my folder. And I guess we're starting with Kennedy. Pizza cutter. Sketch 1, 2, and 3. Alright, so there is, I guess, is this the rendering? Yeah, that's the rendering. Okay, so I see it looks like you drew 3 different views of this pizza cutter, which is pretty cool. You have an under sketch under here too, and I kind of want to just see what your original ones look like. Okay, so this one has like a not as organic a handle here as you have in your new design. Okay, so it looks like you have your perspective right based on the underlay, which is good. Let's take a look at the next one before I comment too much further. One thing you might add here to this top layer, if you add a new layer, are give me some notes about how that's different. Like this is a curved shape as opposed to the original shape. Like call out some of the differences. Maybe this handle is a little bit different too. Another, just taking a look at the size of your canvas, try and make sure that you guys are all using 17 inches width, 11 inches high, 150 pixels per inch. That way we're all working on the same size. Alright, version 2 looks like it's a little bit more rectilinear. Looks like maybe you could have taken this one a little bit further. There are a few key details missing, like how this is held in place. Maybe like what the thickness of this material is here. It probably has some thickness. Let's check the third one. Alright, kind of more like a scooped guard. So I like that, Kennedy, you're thinking about this detail in a couple different perspectives. It kind of is forcing you to think about that shape with a little bit more detail. Now let me show you, just as an example of something, and I know we haven't done a formal demo yet on this, just yet. Here's another way that maybe you can approach this. So, and I'm just going to do it for one view here. We have, I'm going to do a revision on this guy based on kind of like what you have right here. So, I'm going to start a new layer, and I like that you were turning this down just a little bit too. So you kind of like change the shape of the handle a little bit, which is fine. Leave that in there. Okay, so this, you were kind of thinking it's more of like a cup shape that like guards this. Maybe it wraps around the back of the blade just a little bit too. You gotta think about that transition a little bit more. And then, because that's supposed to be like super round, I might actually come in here and use my my guide tool to get that right. Okay, this edge probably has some thickness to it that I just didn't add yet. And it looks like maybe I need to like feel out that shape a little bit more, how that transitions. I could probably erase some of this line work a little bit. Come back in and kind of like make that transition a little bit better. Okay, now another way that you can use your underlay is you can actually pull colors from your underlay too. So when I start to color in this object, I might actually use my eyedropper tool and pick this color exactly to start filling in this version of my object. So it's more exactly sort of matching what the underlay is already, how it already looks. So I don't have to think as much about how that color is supposed to be, and instead I can I can just kind of copy what I have underneath here. So it looks like it's darker on the left side and there's some highlights on the right side. So on the same layer, start using an airbrush, or maybe I can create a new layer here. Darken up this side, and then it looks like we had some highlights on the other side. I'm going to put that on a new layer too. So the feeling, I'm going to want to like change the opacity of this a little bit because it wasn't that dramatic. And it looked like it kind of had a double highlight, like one area was a little bit brighter than the other area. I probably will add a little bit of a highlight to like the top edge of that too, and then I can kind of merge all of this stuff together and erase away my edges. Again, if it's hard to see like where my line work is, I can always lighten it up a little bit. Make sure I'm erasing in the right spot. And my brush is a little bit laggy right now because I'm recording the screen. But this is a really good way to kind of use your underlay as a reference for exactly how you're supposed to render this object's color. Let me turn that back up. Okay, the next part is kind of looking at how we're rendering the top here, and it looks like it's just all kind of a middle gray metallic color. I'm going to pull that color. I might try to make it a little bit lighter. Start a brand new layer and just fill in my entire blade. Okay, blade's all filled in. I'm going to erase away this bottom area. Okay, now I'm going to add some highlights and shadows based on my rendering. So let's turn this off, turn this on. This is another reason to use an underlay. I might, in Keyshot, before I export what you exported, try and get maybe a little more definition on some of these surfaces. so I have a better reference to use when I'm adding my shading. Alright, so I'm going to use my airbrush tool and like a nice white color, start adding some highlights. First I'm going to like add some highlights to the outer edge of my blade. Come back in and get rid of this area that I don't want. No, I just want that like outer edge. And then make a new layer, use my airbrush tool. It looked like I had like something like that going on the blade. Make a new layer. Add maybe some definition to that. And also like that. I might use a pencil tool and kind of pop the edge of this. And I might even add a little bit to the outside here. And now that all of those highlight layers are merged together, I can kind of erase them all at once. Okay. Maybe to just exaggerate something here, I'm going to add a multiply layer to add a little cast shadow, sort of behind. Oops. Sort of behind where this is held in place. I might have to actually put that on top here, just to add, give it a little bit more dimensionality. Okay, I'm not sure if that helps, but I guess that might be another really good way to use your underlay as a reference for not just perspective, but also like your color and lighting as well. So I think you're on the right track, Kennedy. We'll have a better demo for this kind of stuff this week as well. So nice first stab. Okay, next person. Liam. All right, cool. So is that your underlay? And it looks like you've just added a cover to the top here. What I like about that is you're using most of this object exactly in its original state and kind of just modifying it with a little bit of extra shading. Again, well, I guess I'll say this because you're not all watching everyone's. It'd be good to call that out with some sort of note. Why is it different? Like protected area to prevent, I don't know, fingers from being burnt. Alright, for this one it looks like you're adding a cap. Call that out. It might be nice too, I mean I know like the last iteration you added something here, this iteration you added something here. Those two protective things kind of feel like two elements of what could be one concept, like a more protected version of this item. Let's open up your last one. There we go, and this is like a different version of sort of the same idea of protecting the tip. I guess it would be nice to see some other maybe detail changes, like maybe there's a different way to do these vents. And a good way, and I'll just give you an example too, a good way that maybe you could do that is like pull this color, use a brush to like get rid of the existing vents, just like color it over them, start a brand new layer, and show me a different way to do those same vents. Like maybe this time you want to do vents that are kind of a different shape. Spend some time like thinking of a new pattern. Like these are dot vents, and for that reason maybe it makes sense to add some like dot texture to the handle here as well. You can go in and actually shade that and make it just feel a little bit different. And as a whole, your concept is going to evolve a little bit more. So, nice first stab at this. I think you probably could have gone a little bit further, but we'll get into it more this week. All right, next we'll go to Gabriella. All right, and it looks like we've got group 1, group 2, and group 3. Okay, and you put them all in the same composition, which is absolutely fine, as long as we have like 3 different concepts. So, wow, you've got a whole bunch of layers, which makes me happy. So, there's your underlay. It looks like you used. So I'm going to turn off some of these just so I can take a better look. Okay, so that's the view that we're seeing. And yeah, you got a couple different concepts. So this is one concept. I like that you're using these circles to call out concept 1, 2, and 3. In addition to those circles, it might actually be helpful to call that out further and actually say like this is concept 1, concept 2, and concept 3. Just make it easier for me to see like what you're showing. This is what I was looking for though. So we have the same underlying geometry and then 3 different executions for modifying this. So this one's kind of like splitting it in the middle, so you can kind of change the curvature. I like that your arrows seem to communicate that. This one looks like it maybe expands. Oh, I see, expands and contracts. For that reason, it might make sense to make this like a double-sided arrow to show it expanding and contracting. And this is a soft, maybe soft grip. Cool, and you change the color as well. So this is exactly what I was looking for. Nice job, Gabby. This shadow that you have under here is great, anchoring things to the page. I would have done a similar shadow like under each of these to kind of ground them all the same way. I like that you have a title on your page and that you're noting your differences. So overall, this is a really good start to using an underlay to modify your design. Nice job. All right. Who is next? Amber. All right, here's version 1. I like that you have a title on here. Yep, scissor iteration number 1. Your drop shadow, I like that you've included a drop shadow. It looks maybe a little extreme. It's maybe just a little distracting. You could probably tone it down just a bit. Handle proportion changed. Okay, so I kind of want to see, that's your underlay. And what did you change about it? Where is the original one? Oh, there's the original one. Okay. Oh, I see. So it is changed. The proportions are a little bit changed. It's nice to see on the page that reference, so that we can tell like what is actually different about your object. So whether you want to include it as a part of the background, keep it somewhere on the page, or potentially even better, like put all 3 iterations of what you showed in a composition so we can see them together and really call out the differences. I think that would be helpful. Let's look at the next one. Iteration 2. Okay, now I can kind of see. So this one's maybe a little bit more angled, yeah, more geometric. Allows scissors to stand on a flat surface. Great. Note. Curvy rubber, easier to grab. Wonderful. Yeah, I really would like to see these all on the same page, I think, like Gabriella did. Cool. You made a stand for it. All right. Overall, I think your highlights and shadows, maybe your highlights are just a little bit confusing as to like what edges they're actually on. Think about where your light source is when you add your highlights. If your light source, for example, in this view is coming from sort of like the front this way, I think probably this edge, like this would all be highlighted also as well, and like this would be highlighted, and I think probably this area here wouldn't be quite as highlighted. So just think about your light source. It's another good thing to use your rendering as a reference as to like where your highlights should actually be. All right, overall, nice job, Amber. Yeah, nice notes. I would like to see everything kind of on the same page. I know that wasn't really a requirement, but it is nice to see sort of a before and after here too. So good start on this stuff. All right, next person would be Casey. All right, so there is one scissor. And I wonder if it will let me do this. If I can add your guys' images in. Like, can I add your second one in here? So I can see them compared to one another. Ooh, it will let me do that. Cool. So there's version 2. I'm going to add a third one in here just so it's easier for me to see. Put that one. Well, I don't really have a good spot for it, but I'll put it up here. Okay. Casey, yeah, you did exactly what I was looking for too. So it looks like I can probably dive down in here and find a rendering. Let me just move that off to the side so we can take a peek. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer. This layer I want to move so you can see what's going on. Cool, so there was her underlay. And you just drew right on top of here a few of these modifications. So in this case, what's missing on your pages are, I guess, like a title, these scissors, and it'd be nice to have a label of like concept 1, concept 2, concept 3, and it would also be nice in between each concept if you called out things that are different. So you could actually call out those grips and like extra grip for when you're cutting really heavy material, and in this case, like why did you let this purple material go through the handle in a way that's different than it was before. So just add some notes in the title, and I think you'll be off. It'll be even better. Nice shading. I'm glad that you're using the rendering here as a reference for your shading. That's really nice. These could all use maybe just a little bit of drop shadow underneath just to kind of anchor them to the page. and not I'm like drawing on top of your object, so it's not exactly how it would look. Let me see if I can drag this down underneath everything. Yeah. Just to make it feel like it's sitting on the page a little more, but overall this is nice. I do think you could have pushed some of these ideas a little bit further, but nice execution, Casey. Okay, next person. Carly. All right. It's clear so you can see the mechanics. Matte red aluminum, soft edges on the base, and I'm just going to open up your rendering just so I can see what the original looked like. Oh, well, we've got a background behind there too. There we go. So there's the original. Yep, I think you've got the exercise right. You're just sort of tracing over the existing thing and then making some changes about it. So well, that is good. I'm going to turn this back on, turn this off. Actually, I'm just going to like undo some of these steps and try and get this back to the way it was. Okay. I do think this background might be just a little dark for what it needs to be. Maybe we lose some of the the line work here. Let's open up one of your other ones. Add a title to the page. Don't forget that. Okay, hey, this one is significantly different. So, nice job. It's opaque plastic on the top. You've got a cutout for easier hand grip. Your notes are spot on. That's what I want to see. Maybe I would suggest using a pen that's a little bit different for your notes. It looks like some of these get a little bit thin. This guy, this tapered paint pen, let me get out like a white so you can kind of see what's going on. Tends to be a little bit more visible, or if you want something a little bit narrower, this fine line pen does a better job of not being, it doesn't get super thin. So try another pen. It's legible, but I think it could be a little more legible. All right, let's look at the last one. Nice. Okay. I'm glad you kind of went this route too. So taking the existing geometry and then finding a way to just split what's already there and add a new material break. So Carly, I think you're doing a great job. This is what I was looking for. You're on the right track. I can tell you're using the underlay, you're rendering underlay as a reference for how you're supposed to add shadow and stuff. So that's really nice. One area I think maybe could be tweaked just a little bit. Down here, it's dark because it's in shadow. I think underneath here would probably also be relatively dark as well. Like all of this under here, and get this layer on top of everything else. All of this in here would probably be a little bit darker as well. Under your line work. Where did it go? Multiply, turn it down, erase away. Again, just to add a little bit more of that dimensionality to this. But anyway, you're doing great. This is exactly what I was looking for, so nice job. Just got to add a title. Okay. Luke. All right, you threw everything on the same page. That's fine with me. Makes it easy to compare your different versions. Yay, I'm glad you have a title on here. Could make it maybe just a little bit more emphasized. I do like you have some call outs here on what's different between your concepts. Great. and that you're using a light one on the inside here. I think your vignette might be just a little extreme. You could probably get away with one that was just a little less extreme, I guess. Something around there might be a little bit nicer. And then I'm not sure where those other details are. But you'd want to change those too. But anyway, overall, yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for. I like that you shaded the inside here. You could use a little bit of shading inside over here, just to call out those details. And yeah, overall, this is what I was looking for. So nice job with the shading. And we'll push this further later on this week. All right. Don't feel tied to the original materials either. If you wanted to push this a little bit further, you could have actually added, you still can add like a material break and maybe make these handles rubberized or something like that too. So there's no end to how much you can modify these tools. It's really just up to your imagination and how much you want to change the design. All right. Lauren. Cool, you've got all three on the same page. I like that you have a title on here. It's nice and called out. Calling out some differences between your designs. So this is exactly what I was looking for. Interesting choice to not shade in the drop shadow. I think it still kind of works even though it's not shaded in. Same with your vignette. I'm kind of curious what it would like if it were shaded in. Or maybe like the background was like a little bit darker. And then, I don't know, your vignette was white or something like that. So anyway, those are just little details. Overall, yep, exactly what I was looking for. You could always come back through and add a little bit more weight to the outside of some of these variations to get them to pop off the page a little bit further. And we're going to push this even further this week, so nice job. Next. Cole. All right, 3 different hammers, there we go. This is like a kind of a cartoony thumbnail style of shading. And I think it works specifically because it looks like we're just looking at major changes in geometry to the handle, but the head is kind of staying the same. All in all, I think maybe you could make these just, they're done too, just like scale them up a little bit so that we can see, you know, fill up your page a little bit more, and definitely add some notes to explain sort of your reasoning behind why this handle is a certain way. So like, this is concept 1, concept A, B, C. This handle is like a gel handle for comfort. This one is like a rubber overmold. This one is something else. Yeah, just give me some notes. So I think you're pretty close. The bright red background is maybe just a little bit distracting. You'd probably get away with something a little more subtle, and still have it tie your objects together. Yeah, your rendering, I'm kind of curious what the rendering, there's the rendering underlay. Okay. The lighting on your underlay is not super dramatic. One thing you can do, again, as we do this more and more, to push these designs a little further is spend a little more time on your underlay, getting a lighting scheme that you really like, and then you can kind of carry that lighting through to your design iterations. and get them to feel a little bit more realistic as well. So, but this is a nice job with your first set of underlays. All right, we'll go to next person. All right, Dexter. Looks like maybe one has layers and one doesn't. Okay, cool. This one, yeah, this is what I was looking for too. So voice scripts, there's your title. That could be maybe a little bit larger. Interesting vignette, but it does kind of help these objects come off the page. They look like they're glowing a bit. I don't think you really need that glow. If you want them to stand off a little bit more from the background, you could always add a little bit more line weight to the outline of the object, but yeah, I don't think it needs to glow. Comfortable grips, you might call out something like rubberized for comfort. Yeah, hexagon clamp, that's good. Try to keep your arrows from cutting across your object as much as you can. Finger slots, this is like the brass knuckles option over here. So nice variations though. That's exactly what I was looking for, so good job. Next. And is this one? No, that's just like a JPEG. Okay. Laura. Looks like maybe this is just a JPEG. I'm not seeing any layers. I'll double check again, but yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for too. Some great variations here. I like that you're titling each one: the night man, the man, the day man. Give me a title for your page. Yeah, let me see. Did I just miss it? Folder or file with layers. No, it doesn't look like it. All right, I'd love to see the layers that you used to set this up, but yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for. You could maybe emphasize some of the line work on this a little bit more to make it still feel like a sketch, because it's like design iterations, but that's just being nitpicky, so nice job. All right, Mitch, we've got, looks like wrench number 1, and I'm going to add your other ones in here so you can see them all at the same time. Just move that down, wrench number 2, and wrench number 3, and this one up. Okay. Alright, and I know this one has some red shadow on it. I'm just going to get rid of it for now, so it's not in the way. It looks like wrench number 2, maybe I lost some of the line work. Alright, overall, it looks like I can tell you're changing some colors. This one's got like a different area to grab something, like a different shape. This one has a hole in it. So some of those details, it would be great if you had some notes to call them out. So you could say, I don't know, inset shape for grabbing something special. Why does that hole exist there? If you're changing the color or you're changing, yeah, this one we're kind of like covering up the screw area, like call that out. Give me some notes and put a title on here too. Like this is the pipe wrench, and you could even say like concept A, concept B, concept C. Anything to just help us see that this is an exploration, iterating on an existing design. All right, so let's take a look at your underlay. Oops. I'm just gonna pull your rendering out a little bit so we can see it. All right, cool. So I can tell you're kind of using it as a reference for your geometry, and that's great. One thing that will help moving forward in Keyshot, if you spend a little bit more time like trying to find a lighting scheme that emphasizes like maybe some of the edges in here a little bit more, then you can really copy that shading style on the wrench itself once you start drawing your wrench. In general, it looks like you're still starting to get used to the tool in terms of getting lines to work the way you want them to. Like it's a little thick here, a little thin here. This is maybe a little too dark. We don't even see the line work. So spend some more time like trying to feel out how to sketch lines that aren't quite as labored. And I know it's tricky because this, like, the surface feels different, your pen feels different too. Another thing that's going to help with these is maybe trying a different approach to coloring in your objects. We're going to have another chance to do this like next week. Maybe I'll do another demo. If you haven't watched or rewatched like some of the drone coloring demos, I'd go back to those because I think you're probably closer than you think in terms of adding shadow to this stuff, and especially once you have a reference underneath for where shadows and how it should go, it's just going to be a matter of executing. So nice job, nice try on this stuff, Mitch. I'll see what I can do to kind of get you to push a little bit further and give you some more tips and tricks on adding value to this stuff so it communicates a little bit more clearly. Alright, tie. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing where I'm just going to add your other versions in here. Just make my job a little bit easier. Here's version 2. Now it looks like you were going to do like a front view as well. That's great. Adding an extra view to these guys really helps the designer, you kind of figure out at more detail how this object is supposed to work in space. I am going to just erase some of the stuff and focus only on like these views right now, just because we see them all together. So, first thing, like it'd be nice to have a title on the page, like cat clippers, so we know what it is you're trying to redesign. And then for each one of these, I see that there are a bunch of differences between, you know, how these objects work, which is great. I would definitely add some notes about that. So, like, tell me about that thing. What is that? Curved for what reason? Like curved to improve, I don't know, reach or something like that. Yeah, just talk about that. If this is stainless steel and this is rubber, like call that out. This is oriented as actually cutting a completely different way. That's awesome. So give me some notes. Other than that, obviously you get it in terms of like using your shading and stuff. I might go back over these a little bit to add like a darker outline to the edges just to get them to pop off the page a little bit more. Or consider adding, you know, like a drop shadow underneath some of these guys too, just to get them to feel like they have a spot on the page. But overall, this is what I was looking for. So nice job with your iterations. All right, I think we've got 2 more. We've got Eunice and Tessa. All right, Eunice, once again, nice job thinking about the page composition. This is the peeler concept sketching, I guess. Yep, it is concept sketching. One thing that's helpful when you're showing iterations of an existing object using an underlay is to try and keep the same perspective for all 3 of these. And sometimes it even makes sense to, rather than scatter them around the page, like put them in a more regular lineup so we can more easily see what the differences are. So like I don't know, if you wanted to keep this orientation, then show me like 3 of them in that orientation right next to each other. Just because, again, Sketch is about a communication, and this particular communication is showing variations between different design concepts. That said, overall, yeah, nice job with your shading, highlighting, all of that is not surprising to me. Your line work is, I know we're looking at this pretty small, but it's really fine, and I think another way to maybe make these continue to feel like a sketch, less like a rendering, is to give it some of that line work back, add some more line weight around the outside. I like that you have these tails. I think that helps. Just a little bit more, I think, would help too. But overall, this is what I was looking for. So nice job, Eunice. I like the notes, calling out what is different. So, all right, last but not least, Tessa. All right, let me scale this down a little bit. And I'm going to see where your rendering is. There's your rendering. Oh, no, just kidding. There's your rendering. All right, so I'm going to turn this on so you can kind of see it a little bit better. Okay. So I can tell that you're like tracing over your object. So I just wanted to see that. And I can see some differences. There are a couple things missing from this page, though, that I think would really help. One would be, like, give me a title. Like, this is Needle Nose Plier Design Exploration. I like that you have all 3 of your concepts in nice regular arrangement, but I would definitely find a way to show, like, that these are 3 different options for the same product. And then I would also call out the differences. So like this one has these little horn things. What are they? Like horn for grip when using it this way. I don't know. Maybe that's a different material. Like call out what's going on with these. This is cool. Probably pulled that from something else that you sketched, and that's perfect. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, your line work is good. I think the shading looks maybe a little bit rushed. And like the bleed over, like these blood over edges, I think maybe isn't helping. Maybe just wanted to spend a little bit more time like blocking in color and shading this thing so it looks a little bit closer to the way I don't know, your design intent. So like that one, sure. Let's throw some shadow on one side of it. Brush. Again, we can use your rendering as an underlay to know where the shadow is supposed to go. But even if you don't know where it's supposed to go, I think like a little bit more love on this guy. Yeah, I don't like that as a hard highlight. It'd go a long way in terms of like just making it feel a little bit more real. You can erase away the outside. Yeah, and your line work is fine. Like it's communicating, I think, what it needs to. Cool. Like, it doesn't take a whole lot. Anyway, there are some other things that maybe you could add too. Just to think about it, like geometry changes are one thing, material changes are another. You can use line weight in your pencil and stuff to maybe add some other details. Like maybe this option has some texture to it, some like grippy texture to it, and that would be a cool difference between concept B and concept A. So think about how you can kind of continue to push your design iterations a little bit farther. So, but you're on the right track, Tessa. So. We'll look for more of this stuff next week. All right, so that's it for assignment 18. Excited to continue doing this stuff in the digital space with you guys this week. Thanks.